After 16 years of being incarcerated for first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and aggravated indecent liberties, on December 8th of 2015, I was exonerated through DNA evidence. My story starts clear back on November of 1999, when my sister-in-law, Zetta Camille, disappeared from our home. After 3 days of no sleeping, no eating, and just endless searching, a young man goes to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and turns himself in and says that he knows where she is. He takes the police to where she was, tells them that it was his gun that's in his dresser drawer in his parents' house, and the police, sure enough, find it there, find everything just as he said it would be. Then, after 7 days, and said he didn't do it, that I had done it. What makes this story very unique is it wasn't just some stranger on the street. This person was my brother. I remember when I first got arrested, it was Christmas Eve and I was going to call home. And I went down and went to use the phone, and I dialed my wife's, at that time, my wife's phone, and they picked up and they said, "It's Floyd, do we want to accept the call?" And I heard somebody in the background say no, and they hung up the phone. And that was the loudest click I'd ever heard in my life. I went back up to my cell, heartbroken, totally in despair, and cried out to God for the next 45 minutes. It seemed like hours. And finally, as so many times we have to, I got to where there was nothing left. And I was like, God, you know, I always hear of these great, every dark cloud having the silver lining and light at the end of every tunnel. And I always hear of these things, but I don't see nothing. No hope, no nothing. I need something. And I laid back, totally exhausted, and through a little 6x8 window, I saw one star way off in the distance. Nothing else, just one star. And God said, "The way is long and it's dark, but the end will come." For 16 years, I had been in prison. I had went through and I was blessed with being able to do Freedom Challenge, where I learned about the keys of forgiveness, what true forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not. And when you stop and you look back, and it's really amazing of how great God is. I went through a life and through a dark time in which, it was hard, but one thing that always shone through that whole 16 years was how God was always in control no matter what I faced. What's amazing is through DNA, how much power there really is in the blood, because it's in that DNA that set me free. I remember December 8th like it was yesterday, or even today. I went to the county courthouse and I didn't have a whole bunch of people on my side. And, the only family members I had there was my aunt and uncle. And the rest of the people were associated with the law school or through people I met in prison. And I remember as we went through and heard all the evidence, my brother committed suicide about a month prior, actually on the 16-year anniversary of the crime. And what's very important was before he committed suicide, he left 3 notes. One to my parents, one to his wife, and one addressed to whomever cares. When we saw the evidence and Tom, we read the suicide notes from when Tom confessed. And after all that was done, and I was exonerated at 3:45 in the afternoon, that's when God really started opening and blessing me greatly. I've learned a lot over the past 16 years. And some of the things that I want you as a church member to remember is a lot of times we condemn people. We cast judgment upon them. We do things. I mean, think about it. How many times we talk negatively about incarcerated people? How we say, well, that person's getting what they deserve, you know, and we don't realize that that's not of God, because there's only one that condemns us, and that's the devil. He's the one that condemned us. He's the accuser. The Bible says he's the accuser of the brethren. And if we're accusing, if we're condemning people, what's that say about the church? We're the image of an invisible God. And if we're sitting there casting condemnation upon people, there's no wonder people can't see and they get confused. You know, in this day and age, we see all through the news and on all the social media how quickly people will cast judgment upon other people. And what amazes me is how many of those people profess to be Christians, and they're casting judgment, casting condemnation. We can't do that as a church, because that's not of God. God is full of love, mercy, and grace. There's only one that judges at the end, and that's God. It's not us. We as a church need to lay down our condemnation and start taking up God's side and looking at everybody with love, forgiveness, and grace and mercy. What's expected of you, O man, but to live justly, love mercy, and to walk humbly with your Lord, your God. Nowhere do I ever see that we're to judge. That is what I want to leave you guys with this morning. It's by God's grace that I'm married. It's by God's grace that I have a son, a new son, and one on the way. God's blessed me beyond all measure. And it all comes from trusting and believing in His grace and mercy. My name is Floyd Bledsoe. I'm a 16-year exoneree, and this was my story.